Hello, and welcome to the Life Report, conversations about our journey through God's epic story. I'm Matt Anderson.
I'm Ben DiBono, and Matt, we have a very special show today. And do you know why?
I do.
Because we have with us one of the Life Report's biggest fans as a guest host. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Sarah Aydt. Welcome, Sarah.
I was going to clap for myself.
Well, you can. You should be happy.
That would have been fun.
So, Sarah, you're making your Life Report debut today.
Yes.
Exciting times, right?
Very.
Welcome.
Yes. You've been a big fan
Thank
for
you.
quite a while, like a month.
Since it started.
No, because you told me shortly after it started that you weren't listening. So let's not lie to the viewers.
But thanks for being here.
But thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
And the reason you're on the show is because you actually suggested this week's topic, right?
I did.
Which is,
Taking scripture out of context.
and we will get to that in just a minute.
I do want to ask you, though, can I ask now, what made you want to do that topic?
Well, I have to go to chapel every day because of the school I go to,
And what school is that?
Northwestern College.
Hey, that's where I go.
Give it
And
a
that's
clap.
where I go.
We all go there.
Yeah, and so we have chapel speakers every day, and I've noticed a lot of scripture out of context.
And so you want to talk about it here on the Life Report.
I figured I'd ask the wisest guys ever.
Oh my gosh. thank you.
Ever.
Next to Jesus.
Take that, Solomon.
Well, thanks, Sarah. All right, Ben, it looks like according to our show notes, you have a special announcement today.
I do, and this is actually a big thank you to our fans. We're tongue-in-cheek quite a bit here on the Life Report. This isn't a huge number, but it's big for us that in the month of November, we hit 300 downloads for our podcast.
Do you know the statistics? Is that even good for a podcast?
Well,
I mean, it sounds
it's
big
like
to us.
for a small church. We're not a huge church. Our audience is primarily within the church. So every other month, like on October, we were at 209. So that's a big jump.
Wow.
So I feel proud of it.
Well, I've been downloading a lot extra to get our numbers up, so maybe that helps.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should start that, I think.
Hey, can I make another announcement?
Yes.
If you are listening to this and you've listened to more than one other besides this, you might notice our audio is a little bit better.
Yes.
And that's because Ben actually invested in some equipment for us.
We are in Life Report Studios right now with headphones, with microphones, with a soundboard.
It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Now, it'll probably take us a couple weeks to perfect the settings on the soundboard because neither one of us know what we're doing.
Right.
So that's a little rough, but we'll get there.
But Sarah, it's awesome, right? Like you have a microphone and headphones on, and it's pretty cool, huh?
It's really awesome.
At the very least, it feels cooler because it was not very dignified
know.
huddling around that little microphone.
I know.
If this was a video podcast, it would look cooler.
It is a video podcast.
Well, we're taking a little video just because it's the first time with this equipment, but so maybe the viewers can see a little something on YouTube later.
Yes. Now, we got a huge show ahead of us, and we got some listener feedback to get to first. So, most of our questions actually have to do with the topic that people sent in, so we'll save those to get through as we're going.
Perfect.
But I do have a couple things I want to read off of Facebook first.
Okay, great.
The first one is from Casey, and remember, we use your real names if you put it on Facebook because the world can see you on there, so no code names on Facebook. Casey writes, "Another great episode, guys. I think we should go to TGI Fridays for the Life Report Fellowship time. I have a coupon for a free appetizer. I would gladly share with the stars of the Life Report."
That's awesome, but and that is cool, but I think that might be in direct conflict with what our guest host today put on Facebook.
Should we get to your comment, Sarah? Would you like to read it, or should I read it?
Well, how am I going to read it from here?
That's a good point. So listener Sarah writes in, "The Life Report get-together should be at Chipotle, Noodles, or Taco John's," to which I replied, "I dislike all forms of noodles. And there's no way I'm going to choke down Taco John's." And you replied, "Chipotle, it is."
But then I had to reply that I enjoy Taco John's because I don't actually like Chipotle that much.
And that we had received a request for Fridays.
Yeah.
And you said,
Fridays is good. Or
and is it
something.
really? Or was that just a little passive-aggressive thing coming out?
No, I really like Fridays.
So do I. So, Life Report hookup, gonna be at TGI Fridays, and we will figure out when.
Let's not call it a hookup. Let's call it a meetup.
Good idea. The Life Report purely platonic meetup
Yep.
will be at TGI Fridays, TBD.
Yes, that's right. Sometime to be decided.
And then,
STBD.
STBD.
What does that mean?
You said sometime.
Yeah.
I decided.
I thought I was missing out on some cryptic cool lingo here.
And
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's determined, by the way.
So then, listener Joy put up,
Whatever.
you guys need a logo or something. Yes, we do. Who wants to build one for us?
I think, didn't Joy say she might?
She said maybe.
Okay.
Awful non-committal.
Who knows?
So we're looking for someone who is willing to do an awesome logo for free. And whoever you are, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@epiclifeonline.org.
That would be awesome.
Sarah, do you do logo design?
I can. I have a Mac.
Okay. Well,
So
put
I
it to
can do
good
that.
use. Awesome. And then finally, listener Skip writes in, and he says, "Oh, and can you post your links on the city, too? Can you make a life report group on the city?" Well, Skip, here's how it goes. We need admin privileges on the city to make a group. And right now, we don't have those.
Are you actually responding to your boss through our podcast that he doesn't listen to?
Yep. So, Skip, the answer to your question is yes, we would love to put a group on the city, which, by the way, is Epic Life's new social networking tool. If you're not on it yet, you need to sign up, and you can email us to figure out how. But unfortunately, we don't have admin rights to add and create groups on the city, so there will be no life report group until you give us the proper privileges.
STBD.
STBD.
Don't want to mess that abbreviation up.
Awesome.
So,
We got a huge show in front of us today. So I think we should get right into it.
yes.
So, taking scripture out of context. All those in favor of it, raise your hands.
Not in favor.
No one is raising their hands.
Ben is raising his hand.
Well, that was just a demonstration so you guys would know what to do.
Okay, thanks.
So,
So
we
what-
are
what-
against. We are against.
We are against it. But what do you mean when you refer to context?
Well, that's a good question. Sarah, since you brought this up, what do you think of when you think of the context of scripture?
I think of the whole story instead of just a little part. So when you read just a really little part of a whole story, you don't know.
Oh my gosh, is my furnace on the life report?
No way. Is that what that sound is?
Our microphones are too powerful. They're picking up my furnace.
Is that really what that is?
That is what it is.
All right, we got to work out this audio stuff.
We'll have to put the microphone somewhere else next week. Sorry.
Okay, so keep going. Sorry, Sarah.
So, big story.
Yeah, big story. If you read just a little part, you're taking that little part out of the context of the whole story.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe
No, that's
context. Okay.
So I have 5 areas of context that I think come together to make the context of a particular passage. And I want to see what you guys think.
Okay.
So, number 1, original languages. Number 2, genre of the book. Number 3, the author's purpose in writing the book or chapter. Number 4, the intended audience. And number 5, what you were saying, Sarah, the larger message of the chapter, the book, and scripture as a whole. What do you think?
Good job.
Excellent. Cool. So, with that in mind, maybe we should look at, we all agree, taking scripture out of context is bad.
Yeah, I would.
Why?
Well, I would say that it could be problematic.
It can be problematic.
Yeah.
Would you say that because you're reading it off of the show notes I wrote for you?
Yes.
Okay. Why would it be problematic, Matt?
Because, all right, scripture is given to us, and it has sometimes multiple meanings depending on how God works with multitasking. But there's something
I think he's probably good at
he's
it.
awesome at it.
Yeah.
So there's something he's trying to get across. So if somebody comes along and takes something that God's trying to tell us and twists it, or maybe even the person's not trying to do it in a bad way, like they're not trying to be mean, but they're trying to use it in a way to suit their purpose, we have a problem because now we're getting a message that is not from God, it's from human minds.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think?
I wasn't thinking about that, but I actually agree that if you take one verse and you try to preach off of it, people are getting what you think off this one verse, but when you read the whole story, sometimes what they were talking about doesn't make any sense. So you're almost teaching a could be a false message.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a question here then from the outset. Is it ever okay to just take a single verse?
Yeah, I think it is okay.
because here's kind of what I'm getting at. Annie and I were talking about this last night, and she brought up the issue that, like, with Bible memorization, most people don't memorize an entire chapter. They'll memorize one verse. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, John 3:16, for example. Probably the most often quoted single verse in Scripture. Now, is that okay, or is that going to take John 3:16 out of context and what the actual story is that's going on there?
I think that some scripture is less dramatic out of context. Like, that is something that, people know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to memorize a verse, you don't have to memorize the whole thing, but you can know what it's referring to when you memorize the one verse. I was just going to give an example, but I don't know the context of it, so I'm not going to.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on. Like with something like John 3:16, if you look at the context of that passage, the verse itself actually sums up what Jesus is talking about in his conversation with Nicodemus very well. It fits with the larger message of the gospel, which is obviously still relevant in our lives, and it fits with the entire context of Scripture. So in that verse, you're kind of getting the context right in the verse, and you don't necessarily need the larger argument to understand John 3:16.
Mm-hmm.
However, not every verse is like that. That's what I would say would be the difference.
I think that's true. There are some verses that the message is right there in the one verse, and there's others that you need the whole chapter, possibly book, to really understand what's trying to be said.
Yes. So, we all agree this is bad. We understand why it's bad, and we understand what we're going for, with what context is. So now what we got to figure out is, how can you tell when Scripture is being taken out of context? And we kind of talked about a couple of examples, but let's broaden it out a little bit more general. And here we actually have our first listener question, and this one's a little special.
Yeah, it is, because your friend was visiting.
He was visiting yesterday, and we were hanging out, and I said, you know what, let's pull out the equipment. You've got a question for the Life Report. We'll record you, and we'll play it tomorrow.
So it's our first voice feedback.
It's our first voice feedback. I will say that we are still adjusting the audio, so the audio is not amazing. But good stuff in either case. So this is Microman's question for the Life Report. We are live here the day before the Life Report is recording.
So loud.
It's exciting time.
Yes, and I am here with one of our biggest fans, known to the Life Report community as Microman. How's it going, Microman?
I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So, you're in town for the holiday.
Just for Thanksgiving.
And you are an avid fan of the Life Report, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm just happy to be here in the studio.
Yes.
Where all the magic happens.
It's a brand new... You're actually the first person to be using the new equipment in the Life Report studios.
You mean you weren't always using equipment like this?
We had this thing.
Oh, okay.
And, our viewers at home can't see what I'm holding up, but I'm holding up a very tiny recorder that Matt Anderson and I would huddle around to record the Life Report. And now we have a soundboard and we have microphones.
Yeah, I'm sitting in front of this giant microphone.
I don't know if it's giant.
Well, it's very impressive.
It's pretty
looking.
much normal size, but yeah, it's impressive looking. And I think that even if the sound isn't any better for our listeners, it's certainly going to be a more fun experience for us to record. So, now I brought you on because you had a question.
I was supposed to do my homework and have a question, but I don't actually have a question.
You don't have a question about taking Scripture out of context.
Well, I guess where I would start is just a general question of, like, how do we identify if somebody is taking Scripture out of context or not?
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those questions that is easier said than done. It seems like it should be simple, but when you actually get down to the nitty-gritty, is it really that easy to tell when someone's taking Scripture out of context?
What are the red flags?
Good question. Mm-hmm. So, we'll cut this interview off, and then me, Matt, and our special guest host, Sarah, will discuss that question and give you your answer, Microman.
I'm so excited.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
So let's have it, guys. Are these giant microphones?
Yes, they are pretty big.
I don't know. I mean, the stand is only about a foot tall, so cool microphones. I don't know if I'd describe them as giant, but it sounds like Microman, I'm in the minority on this one, and everyone else is siding with you.